edition of Floyd Street's Finest. He is Coach Mark Lieberman. I'm Jack Grossman. Thanks for tuning in. Coach, we finally, we've been sitting through this wilderness for a long time now, to where the team obviously has been struggling. They lost again to Syracuse, and then Virginia Tech, since we last talked. But everyone's kind of had their heads turned towards the coaching search. And we're just going to dive right into this here. And I feel like for the past better part of really since early January, we've just kind of been in this wilderness of, well, we think the job's going to open. We really have no idea what's going to happen. And yes, we keep rotating through these same names over and over again, seeing what's going to be everyone's favorite message board thing for this day. But at the end of the day, there hasn't been anything new for a long time. We finally, Drew Diener broke the seal. Jeff Goodman had poured gas on the fire. Eric Crawford's been going nuts on Twitter, giving, his thoughts on it. The seal has been broken, and we are fully in coaching search mode here in the city of Louisville, which.
Yeah, Drew was the Adam Schefter of the town. Giving some good nuggets to everybody. So, he's got a lot of connections. So he's been able to pass along some thoughts on his show, which has been very interesting for sure.
Yeah. So let's recap what's happened here. We're recording around 12:30 on Thursday. Let's just recap what's happened here the last 36 hours or so. We've had, and we'll get to the recruiting stuff and Nolan Smith starting a newsletter if we want to hit on that as well. It's a very wild 36 hours or so here, but on the coaching stuff, which I think is the most important thing. Diener, yesterday on his show over on ESPN Louisville, says Scott Drew's the clear number one choice for Josh Hurd. There's a number two that's practically primed and ready to go if Drew doesn't happen. And then the pie that may not be in the sky, as Drew put it, is don't rule out Billy Donovan, a name that we have not talked about much, if at all, throughout all this, but obviously is someone that will, people perk up whenever they hear the name Billy Donovan, whether that's likely or not, or whatever. We get into that in a minute. Jeff Goodman comes on the Field 68 newsletter saying, he mentions Dusty May, Josh Schertz from Indiana State, Pat Kelsey from College of Charleston, Lamont Paris, and Jerome Tang, people that may be interested. Diener and Crawford this morning both say Chris Beard isn't really being considered, and Eric Crawford in a tweet says he hasn't heard anything about Nate Oats being connected to the job, and that Eric Musselman would be a surprise. So that is a landmine, this stuff that we just haven't had in a very long time. So where do we want to start with this? I feel like the Scott Drew aspect of it might be the best place to start, not just because it was chronologically the first thing that really came out, but some of the most tangible stuff we have on it, and then we can kind of get into everything else. But I'll say this, Coach, I want your thoughts on this, obviously, as well. But I don't know if Louisville will land Scott Drew. I still have very strong doubts about that. But credit to Josh Hurd, which I believe Diener's reporting on this, that they're going to go all in and try to get Scott Drew. That credit to him for swinging for the fences, and at least is going to make Scott Drew have to say no if they don't get him, or obviously if they did get him, that would possibly be the best hire you could have if you're Louisville at this point, a guy that obviously handled an even bigger rebuild than what Louisville was in when he took over the Baylor job and has built them into a perennial powerhouse.
Yeah, well, first off, what he did down there was tremendous, because you didn't have what you have today with everything, again, ad nauseum, the NIL, the transfer portal, what he had to do, and to reshape that program after the just horrendous stuff that was going on down there. I mean, that's just kudos to him from that standpoint. And I've always admired him. I've always thought of him just in a glowing way. He just does a tremendous job. What he's done down there is just amazing. So year in, year out. And I've known a lot of people who've worked for him, who've been around him. Matt Driscoll's a real close friend of mine from North Florida. he raves about his work ethic. So, Scott is just does a tremendous job. I have to put the disclaimer out there, Jack, that again, it's just a code as a coach. That
Right.
Coach Payne still has his job, but we can still continue to talk about all the speculation and it's just one of those things as in the business that it's kind of that little badge that we wear as a fraternity of coaches. But again, it's been one thing after another here as far as Louisville basketball.
Yeah, along the same line, something else that Diener said talking about Scott Drew that really raised my eyes a little bit is that and something that not in terms of Scott Drew specifically, but I think in a more general manner you can speak of, is that he said that Louisville's expecting an answer soon from Scott Drew, which to me is kind of weird considering I get it. Like, I'm not naive to the fact that, like, ADs talk to agents, do all that stuff beforehand, and that yes, there may be something that's said before a season ends. But the fact of the matter is Baylor basketball right now is peaking at the right time. They just, beat Kansas at home. They almost beat Houston. They won at TCU. They are going to be a 3 seed more likely than not, if not better, in the NCAA tournament in a couple of weeks. And they have a real legit shot of being a second weekend team. And if chips broke the right way, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they ended up in the Final Four. So for me to hear like Louisville's expecting an answer soon or else they're going to move on, I get it. That's one of the things I've talked about with Kenny Payne for a while now, that you're not going to wait till April 1st to move on from him if you're Louisville, because you don't want to miss opportunities on the coaching search and the transfer portal. But if your big guy is out there still coaching the NCAA tournament, I feel like that's a little unfair to try to force his hand and have him make a decision, and is almost an unrealistic expectation to have that decision be made before his season actually ends.
Yeah, I think though that this happens, and you mentioned it, there's back channels. And so he might not be involved with the whole process. And again, I'm not privy to all the inside information, but I have seen this before in this business. And it's the famous Nick Saban line. I'm not going to Alabama. I'm not going to Alabama. I'm not going to Alabama. And then all of a sudden, that's being worked on because he's not dealing with it, but his people are. So that happens more than you think, Jack, in this business, that there's, even when teams are doing really well, and just like Baylor is doing really well, that even through the intermediaries and the agents and whatnot, that there's some conversations going on, and they kind of almost have a handshake agreement. It happens more than you would think in this business.
All right, interesting. So then, knowing that I mean, I feel like the timeline for Louisville is pretty simple moving on. I mean, Louisville has their game this weekend against Boston College senior day. They will play the first game of the ACC tournament on Tuesday. Would probably expect a decision on Kenny Payne if they lose Tuesday, or if they win Tuesday, lose Wednesday, something like that. You figure something would, and again, I'm just talking out of my ass, but just following coaching searches and stuff from before that, usually these things happen pretty quickly once a season ends, to where I would think sometime middle next week, late next week is probably when the job would officially be open, if that is indeed what they do. To where you would look at it and say, okay, you're going to sit there for two and a half weeks if Scott Drew's your guy. And I think that's one of those things where it can become kind of clear at some points, because, if all the other candidates, like if Jerome Tang misses the tournament, Mick Cronin misses the tournament, Oats and Musselman seem to be more on the outside looking at this point, but let's say they both lose like the round, or if Oats loses in the round of 32, Musselman's not making it this year. Lamont Paris loses in like the Sweet 16 or something. Maybe that's the where it kind of reveals itself that way. But it's going to be obviously a fascinating couple of weeks. But I guess the next question would be, do we think Louisville could pony up enough money to make it financially appeasing for Scott Drew, a guy that, as we've noted, has been at Baylor for 2 decades now? He has built that program from the ashes. He's won a national title. He's won Big 12 titles. They just opened a brand new arena and a practice facility that he basically got to design and handpick what it is. Do we think Louisville could go out and actually get him? I think is going to be the big question now after what we've seen the last couple of days, because Diener says they're going to make a run. Goodman on the field 68 kind of pointed that maybe, cool the Jets a little bit on it. I think actually Drew's getting his sources, I would assume anyways, from the Louisville side. Goodman probably more from the coach's side, on the national side, kind of seeing who has interest in the job. So I think it's two different angles, what they're each coming from. I know a lot of friends of mine were, shockingly, the Louisville fans would want to follow the guy that says they're going to make the home run, go for the home run, against the guy that's saying, hey, here's some backup options if you don't get the home run. But I just think you're seeing two different angles of reporting here with Diener and with Goodman, to where I don't think one of them's necessarily right or wrong. I just think it's fascinating and honestly gives us more angles to talk about.
Everybody's got their people that they trust. Everybody talks to people. You mentioned just Jeff and Drew. There's a lot of other people. We've been inundated with the Mick is the pick here constantly.
Oh yeah,
on a daily basis. So everybody has people that they talk to. It's just the way it goes. And I've been around it when I'm in the business. There's always speculation about everything. Everybody's talking about jobs. This time of the year, it's just absolutely bonkers. So as far as that goes, yeah, like you just don't know, what if there's how much truth there is to everything, because there are some nuggets I'm sure they get that are truthful. But Jack, I mean, it's the way it goes. There's constantly coaches trying to get contract extensions, and this is how this business works. And like right now, I would think that if the job, I don't think that is such a concern. And sometimes with these deals that they do get done, even when teams are kind of going into their tournaments, kind of like I mentioned, there are some handshake agreements, and when the season ends, we've got a deal. And so those are the cases. If a school is targeting a certain guy, then that's the guy they're going to go after. And I think financially, I don't know the inner workings of the contracts here, of what the money is, but this is Louisville, and I think Drew mentioned that money was not going to be a factor. And I think people want to get this right. So wherever you are, and especially at a place like this, I know that they're not going to be held back because of that. That's not going to be something that stops them from getting the right guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the question for a very long time for me, because I know I've cited it many times before. If they do end up firing Kenny Payne, that adds another $8 million to the buyout pot of $47.9 million. That's a lot of money. And Louisville, again, is not in the SEC or the Big Ten. They don't have that annual revenue that, to be fair, Baylor does not either, being in the Big 12. But that's where I've always looked at guys like Musselman and Oats and Mick Cronin. You're competing with schools that just have a bigger base of a pot than you do. And, that's something to where with Ohio State being open, if Michigan ends up opening, Indiana, we have learned, is not going to open, which I'm not, to be honest, I'm not surprised at all at that, which that's for a different podcast with Indiana stuff there. But Mike Woodson is returning for a fourth year. That came out on Wednesday as well. But
I will say this, Jack, as far as coaches go, it courses through their veins, the competitiveness and the desire to build. And sometimes, look, you have a place. I've had a lot of friends in the business who have been at good places, and then they seek the money or the big job, and then they're like, well, I probably was comfortable at the place I was at, and that happens. But there's sometimes the coaches that say, you know what, I want to build, I want to challenge, and that's kind of like you get that itch. Pat Riley always talks about the 7-year itch for coaches, and just it's part of it. You just like, okay, I think I've taken this as far as this may go. Maybe there's another challenge for me, because that's what we are as coaches. There's always challenges. You like to build, you like to create, and that's the fascinating part of it. So sometimes that coach that's in a stable situation, he wants to say, hey, you know what? I want to go outside my comfort zone, and I want to try to build another program.
Which the question would be, no one's done it better than Rick Pitino. I mean, if they, first of all, this is just a complete sidebar. Since Rick called out his team in the press conference, They're 4-0, and I looked it up this morning. They're 6th in the Bart Torvik rankings since he did that, and they're on the track now to quite possibly play their way back on the bubble and going to make the tournament, which would be
And I'm
record.
sure he said the same thing to his team before he said that to the media. Whenever he repeat like something that comes out to the media, he's already said that to those guys. So he ripped them a new one, and then that was one that he said, you know what, I kind of like that. I'm going to say that to the press.
He's one of the few guys that can get away with that.
You're right. I mean,
and I'm not saying it's good or bad. Like, that's just how he works. And it has absolutely worked for him this time. And it's cool to see, you know, the different styles that coaches still have. For example, Scott Drew would probably never do that. He's not to say Scott Drew.
It's not style. No, exactly. Right.
And that's not to say Scott Drew isn't overly competitive. He absolutely is. But, you know, it's just everyone has a different style of what works for them. It's been fascinating.
Jack, in this business, just like everything else, you have to be yourself. Because every kid has BS antennas. They know if you're not yourself, if you're not, Rick is him and is going to say what he's one for hyperbole, but at times he wants to get his players going. But every coach has to be himself, and that's the part that makes you successful. If you try and be something you're not, it's never going to work. So for Rick, calling out his guys, he's done that time and time again, and he knows the buttons to push, just like a Coach Drew knows the buttons to push. And maybe it's individual meetings. I'm not privy to how he operates, but every coach has their way. And, you know, he's kind of groomed himself to say, okay, this is who I am. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And they're on the verge of being the 6th program that Rick Pitino would take to an NCAA tournament, which is just, obviously that would be a record for coaches. And that would be really, really cool to see. And hopefully I'm supposed to be unbiased, all that stuff, but I would love to see him back in the NCAA tournament. That'd be a lot of fun. I know you would too, obviously. Yeah,
you don't have to be unbiased. Who said that? There's no rules. It's a podcast.
That's fair. But back to the coaching search stuff. First of all, I'm fascinated to know who the number 2 would be for Louisville that Diener alludes to, but doesn't have an actual name for. I wonder if it's someone that, like Goodman mentions, of Dusty May, Lamont Paris, someone kind of on that level. Josh Hurts, Jerome Tang, the other names mentioned there, and Pat Kelsey. I look at those and I would say, look, even if you didn't get a Scott Drew, and obviously, there's the whole Billy Donovan angle as well. Coach, you probably know Billy just through the Rick Pitino coaching tree. So I'm not going to ask you.
He recruited one of my players when I was at Monsignor Pace, Ray Shipman, who played for him.
Nice.
I used to spend a lot of time up at the University of Florida for Larry Shiat's coaching clinic. So Coach Donovan and I have a long-standing relationship as well. So, yeah, I've known him quite a long time. And obviously through Richard, who I work for, and Rick.
Yeah, so I'm not going to make you speculate unless you want to. Feel free, but I'm not going to make you speculate on whether Donovan would take the job. I'll just give you my 2 uninformed sense of he's been in the NBA.
Yes, go ahead. I'll let you finish your 2 cents. I'll give you my thoughts.
I would say he's been in the NBA for a long time. He's had up and down success there, both with the Thunder and the Bulls. He, to me, seems like a guy that, and I would lump Brad Stevens into this as well, doesn't really want to come back and have to recruit 16 and 17-year-olds again, and seems very content on where he's at in the NBA right now, to where obviously Hall of Fame college coach, won the 2 titles at Florida. I feel like he's just the type of guy that's kind of moved on from that stage of his career. And we've done this before in the area. I mean, everyone thought he was going to get the job after Pitino left Kentucky. Everyone thought he was going to get the job after Tubby Smith left Kentucky. Indiana fans, before they hired Archie Miller, thought that there was a period of time where they were going to hire him as well. So we've done this saga dance before. I'm not really ready to go through down that road again. And I just think it's a fun pipe dream thought, but I just don't see it being very realistic at this point.
I would say this. Coach Donovan definitely enjoys the fact of not dealing with academics, the recruiting, all those type of things. He told me once, and it was like, hey, if there's issues with the players, that's dealt with with our GM and so on. I'm all basketball, and that's him. He eats, sleeps, breathes, all that stuff, basketball. Like, so the other stuff, the ancillary stuff is stuff that he probably doesn't enjoy as much, and I don't want to speak for him. But Yeah, like being in the NBA for this long and then coming back now with everything that is now attached to college basketball, I would doubt it, but hey, you never say never. But I think he enjoys the pro game, and I think he wants to be successful and get it done and get to at some point. He's a brilliant coach, has a brilliant mind for the game. So I think he enjoys just the basketball part. The other stuff is to come back into that world. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, and that's what we call what's going to be a Twitter clip on the podcast right there. But I do agree with you. I mean, obviously, you know him way better than I've never met him, obviously, but he just seems like, yeah, I can focus on basketball 365 days a year in the NBA, and I don't need to do all the other nonsense. The other news that
remember, I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was with another coach, and he was recruiting that player, and he was in South Africa going shark diving, and he had to make a recruiting call. He was about to jump into a true story. He was about to jump into a cage, I think, to go look at sharks and whatnot. And right before that, he called a recruit. And I know those are the type of things he probably would just rather focus on, how to get the Bulls going or whatever. So I don't think that's the way he might want to do it.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider the level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast.
Coach, you all right, Ben?
Jack, we might have had Billy people might have just commandeered the phone and whatnot and jumped in there and not allowed me to continue talking. That might have been the case. it might have been sabotaged. There might be too much inside info going on in this conversation. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I feel you though. And I'll clean that up a little bit there on the back end, but no, it's perfect. It's perfect. Well, let me ask you this though: of the names that Goodman mentions, that being again Dusty May, Josh Schertz, Pat Kelsey, Lamont Paris, Jerome Tang. You talked a little bit about Schertz last week on the podcast, saying great coach, friend of yours, all that stuff, but you kind of thought that Louisville would aim for a bigger name. Out of that group,
if they make a change.
If they make a change, yes.
We got to do the lawyer speak.
Yes,
just
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do that
as an ode to my profession, but that's okay.
Yes.
You're doing great, Jack.
Yeah, please.
Not on you.
Yeah, no, please call me out every time I do that. I really, I am being sincere on that. I'm not joking, but yes, if they do make a change, and if they don't get Scott Drew and Billy Donovan stays in the NBA, are there any names out of that group that really perks you up and say, okay, this could be a really good fit for Louisville?
Yeah, I think all those guys have proved their worth, and I think those guys are really good. Is that going to make the fans here make their toes tingle? That's the type of thing that you have to. I just saw how Richmond won the league. And remember, they had the billboard, what was it, a couple years ago to fire Chris Mowry and that kind of stuff. And then, and now someone had tweeted out, are they going to put up a billboard congratulating him and whatnot? Josh Schertz talked about it. I don't know if you read Pat Forty's article about his first year. I think they lost 20 games and, they were 10-20, I believe, or somewhere around there. But anyway, they were just, he was getting all kinds of nonsense from fans, from students, and that kind of stuff. You have to persevere through that. And so if you're going to go with somebody who is not in any situation, especially a high profile program, but if you're going to go with somebody who's an up and comer, I think it's great. I love that. I think you're bold. You take a chance on a coach that's going to be here for a long time and is going to say, okay, I'm going to build a program. And the coaches that you mentioned, from Lamont to Josh, Dusty, Jerome Tang, they're all good coaches, and there's tons of those guys out there. But when you're at a high profile program and you've had what's been going on here, that splash, I don't. If I'm in that room, for me, I like to take risks and take chances, but I'm not in the position of the athletic director who's got to make a decision, and it's got to be something that finds a great coach and also appeases the fans as well.
I'm honestly in a spot where obviously you get Scott Drew or a Mick Cronin, big fish. That's obviously ideal and fantastic, but Louisville could do almost anything if they make a change, and it's almost guaranteed to get better. Like I'm fine trying it, something new and different, up and comer, going a different direction if they miss out on those big fish there, because I think they're really good coaches, and they've proved, especially you look at Jerome Tang was in the Elite Eight his first year. Lamont Paris is going to be a game behind of winning the SEC in his second year at South Carolina. Two very massive rebuilds. So those are two guys that have proven, okay, we can turn it around and win pretty quickly. Yeah. Oh, they're so fun. They play
so hard. They compete. Tennessee is really, really good. I think, man, just I watched that game last night, and Connect Four when he gets fouled on that one. That was but they're loaded. But South Carolina is, a team that you don't want to play. They won't quit. They will, they'll battle.
Yeah, it speaks to me to where you watch how hard they play defense, to where they're kind of streaky on the offensive end if they're hitting shots or not. Michi Johnson's really the engine that
he's
really pulls
right. He's the guy.
Yeah,
but, the other guys are playing off of that. They offensive rebound really well. That they're obsessed with offensive rebounding. They're attacking, trying to get to the free throw line. They score off their defense. So yeah, he's built that culture, and they're a type of team that I really enjoy watching.
And they're always in the game. Like even a night like Wednesday night where they're playing a top 5 Tennessee team who might be playing the best basketball in college basketball right now, and they're not hitting shots. Dalton Connect is going off, and they still have a chance to win at the end because their defense is able to keep them in the game.
Mhm.
That's impressive. That's hard to do. That's after they obviously beat Tennessee in Knoxville earlier this year. And you look at him and say, okay, that's a guy I can work with. Like, that's really, really impressive. They're a lot of fun to watch. You think about the Florida game where Lamont Bears made the adjustment late in that game where they're down double digits to go to a 1-3-1 zone, and it completely takes Florida out of their rhythm and sparks a comeback to where they win.
Mhm.
Like, those are really high level coaching things there that I think he could be really good. I'm honestly surprised.
And that's really hard to do when you haven't played a lot of that, to be that courageous in as far as making that decision to change your defenses when you know this is something that you haven't worked on. You almost, as a coach, you're like, are the players going to buy into that? And when you have that trust in that relationship, they will. They understand, hey, if coach believes in it, then we believe in it. And that was just an impressive win by them. And, you know, any team that where your defense, when you're not offensive sensitive, if you're not scoring and you still guard, I'm always impressed with teams like that.
And even year one where they struggled mightily, he was able to get Gigi Robinson to reclassify, 5-star splash recruit there. They won at Rupp Arena last year to where they showed not that they were going to make this massive jump that they've made, but there was at least flashes of, okay, he's taking this seriously. He means business there, even in what was a struggle for year one. I do think, though, it's important that you have a guy that, like, again, Lamont Paris and Jerome Tang have that sense of urgency of, we know the fan base is starved and desperate to win now, to where we got to come in and build this up quickly. Not to, like Porter Moser, hell of a coach, but I never really loved him when the Indiana and Louisville jobs have opened in the past as an option there because of how much the fan base wants to win quickly. You look at it, it took him like roughly 7 years to build things up at Loyola Chicago. It's taken him 4 or 5 years now at Oklahoma to really get that to the point to where they're an NCAA tournament team. And I say, okay, he's a great coach. If he gets his time, he's going to build the program up. But I don't think Louisville is the type of atmosphere where they'll sit through, especially after what Louisville's been through the last handful of years, that they'll sit through a long rebuild here. They need someone that can come in and win immediately. So that's where I look at that group of names, and Paris and Tang really, really pop for me on that, seeing what they've done at South Carolina and Kansas State.
Those guys are as you mentioned. And I think those guys are definitely names that are on everybody's list.
Yeah.
And
Schertz and Kelsey have been phenomenal on the mid-major level. I mean, Indiana State's been a revelation this year. That's been really, really fun to watch. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I love that nickname.
It's tremendous. He's got Larry Blurred.
Yes.
Robbie Avila he's just, I don't know how much of Indiana State you've watched, but like they just, man, he is phenomenal. And to trust your eyes in recruiting and to say, okay, this guy can be like, I really hope they make the NCAA tournament because they're going to be a tough out, and they are so much fun to watch. And he will make, I'm sure he's already going to doing well, but he'll really help himself along those lines.
Arch Madness is going to be a lot of fun this week with them and Drake and Bradley all going at it. I really hope that I'm with you that even if they don't win the
if they can get to the finals, I think they have a chance at an at-large, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be obviously fascinating to watch with Champ Week and all that. One other thing on the coaching search stuff that kind of came out today, Diener said it, Eric Crawford tweeted it, saying that Chris Beard is basically out of the running, and we can Nate Oats in a second, but we'll start on Chris Beard here first. That's someone that has been obviously talked about a bunch. There's been 2 very distinct camps on this. The dude wins everywhere he's been, and he's an incredibly high-level coach. And then the personal stuff of what happened when he was at Texas as well, saying we don't want a scandal-ridden guy coming into Louisville with everything that they've had. And I've taken the lane on this of, look, if you want my opinion on this, you can give me Josh Hurd's paycheck and I will tell you what I think. But I think there's both sides, I think, make great points on it. I don't fault Josh Hurd at all for saying, look, with everything Louisville's been through the last 8-9 years or so, from the end of the Pitino era to the Chris Mack stuff with the extortion and all that, to what's happened with Kenny Payne the last couple of years, and then the FBI scandal on top of it. I don't blame him for saying, look, and this again goes back to something that makes Scott Drew very, a very good fit for this, is that he's run a very clean program for 2 decades at Baylor, to where you can say, we don't want someone that's going to be a distraction, that's going to be another PR hit. We wanted someone that we can just come in, talk about the basketball, and really have that be the main focus here of everything that happens.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I understand, like you said, if I'm in that position, you understand the scrutiny that can go with it, with everything that's gone on here. So yeah, if that change is made, I understand why he would not be upfront as far as a candidate, and that that makes sense. Every program's different, but this situation is unique because of all the things that have occurred over the last few years.
Yeah, and then the other thing that Eric Crawford over on Twitter, WDRB, was talking about earlier today, saying that he hasn't heard anything about Nate Oats being connected to the job, and that Eric Musselman would be a surprise. These are 2 dudes that off and on we have talked a lot about in terms of linking them to the Louisville job. They both seem kind of on the outside looking in at this stage, or I don't even know if that's the right way to put it. They haven't really expressed their interest, it sounds like, in Louisville isn't really looking in that direction from what the reports are saying. I love Nate Oats. I love both Oats and Musselman, but I think Nate Oats is just an absolute star in right now, and I love how his teams play. He's really gotten the most out of that Alabama team this year, to where they lose Brandon Miller, they lose a lot of the core of what they did last year, but Mark Sears has developed into an All-American.
Oh, he's tremendous. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, they've sorely missed Charles Bediako, who ended up not coming back and turning pro. They never really filled that void, but to really rally everything around Sears and a younger group to be as good as they are, to where they're probably going to get a double bye in a really good SEC. I don't think I buy in them making a really deep tournament run because they just don't defend well enough. But I think Nate Oats has done a fantastic job getting all he could out of really a short-handed team this year. And he is, I love the way they play with the 3-point shooting, the modern offense. When they defend like they did last year, when they were 1 overall seed, like in 2021, when they won the SEC regular season and tournament, they are as tough of a team there is to beat in college basketball.
Yeah, doesn't hurt to have NBA length and NBA size players defensively that can erase mistakes. And right, this year it's those guys can bother shots. If there's blow-bys, they didn't have your traditional just rim protector, but those guys were athletic enough to just change some things and get in passing lanes. This year they don't have it, but yeah, that style of offense is in vogue right now. It's the analytics, it's the D'Antoni. We've talked about it before. The dunks, layups, or threes, and it's understandable why that's a fun style for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I love how committed they are to that style. I mean, it's very much. We've seen this before. Like Louisville very much struggles. We've talked about the defensive end mainly, how they don't know their identity. Nate Oats has instilled the identity of those Alabama teams. If they know exactly what they want to do, how they're going to accomplish it, and they know everyone else knows what they're going to try to do, and they still can't stop them. And to me, that's just incredibly impressive from there. So I always felt like Nate Oats was more of a pipe dream because of how much the buyout is for Alabama and trying to go up against him again with the SEC money versus where Louisville's at in the ACC. But it sounds like that's not going to happen. Musselman is a very different coach than Nate Oats. He loves to, take advantage of mismatches. He loves to, if he finds something, it's a very NBA way of thinking. If something's going to work, he's going to just keep doing it over and over again to death until
he has that background.
Yeah. Sure. And I love that as well. But obviously, it sounds like they're not as much in the discussion as perhaps we thought they were the last couple months. So I felt like that was worth hitting on as well. To where the good news is, though, Coach, all these names, if the job does come open, if they get any of these dudes that we've mentioned, I think Louisville would be getting a very, very high level head coach. And I think that's the most important thing.
Well, yes. Again, if something does change here, all
Right.
the guys that were mentioned are all phenomenal coaches, and I would have no issues with any of those guys. Some of them I know, some of them I just admire because of the style that they play. So yeah, I think that yeah, you're spot on with all those guys being great choices.
The other big thing that happened on Wednesday was, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher the kid's name. I'm gonna say it once because I got to take a try. But
You know how bad I am with names, so go ahead.
Joson Sanon, the saga that
Gesundheit.
have. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's he's a top 15 recruit class of 2025. Rumors that he would theoretically reclassify to 2024. But reports from Jody Demling, Billy Donovan, Travis Branham all come out that he's going to visit Louisville around like 2:30ish yesterday. He then posts a photo of himself in Boston at the Puma headquarters at 3:45. So we're like, okay, so the reports might have been wrong. What's going on here? Then it comes out around 7:45, a selfie of him with Kenny Payne in Louisville. I'm like, okay, so he actually came. What does this actually mean? Probably not much. Because it seems like if they end up making a move, the recruitment probably doesn't go anywhere with the new coaching staff, whatever. But then what annoys everyone and really set the internet aflame more than anything else was that an hour and a half after the photo of him and KP surfaces, he posts that he's at the Kentucky Vanderbilt basketball game, which I know, I remember a couple years ago when KP first got the job, Aaron Bradshaw, who obviously is at Kentucky now, did a similar thing to where he visited Louisville for a day over the summer. Then he made the trip down to Lexington. There were a lot of jokes with the radio station back at that time, calling Kentucky the quote unquote pity visit, which it ended up not being a pity visit as he ended up going to Kentucky. But so it's not unprecedented to see a recruit visit both schools at one time. But given where the state of everything is, it did not exactly come off great for Kenny Payne and the staff there to have him come to Louisville, and for what popped in could not have been a very long visit. Like, he very well could have just flown through Louisville because it's probably cheaper to fly through Louisville than it is through Lexington, and just said, while I'm here, I might as well stop by, say hi, get some swag, maybe a little bit of NIL money, because why not? And then can't fault the kid on that. And then pop over to Kentucky where you're guaranteed that the coach will still be there in a week.
Well, that's certainly not unique to this situation because, like you said, if there's a player that's visiting FAU and goes to a Miami game, I mean, yes, it's just magnified because of what's going on here. And then the fact of Coach Payne's relationship to Kentucky, and then he's here and then he's right at the Kentucky game. So, yeah, the optics of it weren't great. And certainly, just that's you'd figure you might want to try and plan that differently. Maybe if he was going to the Kentucky game, then come the next day and visit Louisville. Those are different ways that you can do that. And that's the way you can spin, especially in recruiting. You got to figure out, you want to be the last place that he's going to see. So those type of things, you're always looking at a plan. Again, I'm not inside that building, but I would say that you try and work it where, okay, go to the Kentucky game, come to Louisville afterward.
Or even if it doesn't work out to where he comes to Louisville afterwards, you could have said come the day before and go to the Louisville Virginia Tech game, to where at least then you're kind of in theory on equal footing of, okay, he saw a game at both places. He spent roughly the same amount of time in both places, to where you can at least make arguments on at this point, instead of it, again, looking like he just kind of flew in, stopped by to say hi, collect an NIL check, and move on.
or just have your manager, have one of your managers try and drive him to Lexington and just somehow get lost. That's another way to do it.
Have you ever had a store where either you or you had someone else, you gave them the instructions of get lost for a recruit?
No comment. All's fair in love and recruiting. Okay?
I might need to hear more about this off air. But that's great. I mean, like, I don't know how much there is to actually hit on this. I know people are very angry, so I feel like it has to be brought up.
It's just, look, it pisses people off just because, he's at Louisville and he's at Kentucky, and then all the struggles that Louisville's going through. Coach Payne's connections to Kentucky. I mean, yeah, there's just right now it's very visceral. It's very, you have a fan base that's just so, I mean, yeah, you can use any way to describe it right now.
Yeah.
They want something done as far as what our program getting course corrected, recalibrated, and so on. So yeah, it's just going to piss a lot of people off because of that. And that's something that you have to, when you go into this, in this business, you got to understand that everything now from tweets and people connected to programs, you've got to do it so it comes off and it makes your program look in a good light. Everything that you do.
And it's just another example of something that's been mismanaged by Kenny Payne and the current staff. I mean, it's been, obviously people haven't been happy with things he said in the press conferences for a really long time. I always, point to the Karan Davis situation, how that was poorly handled more than anything else. Treading flowers coming on campus, then leaving in August. There's just a very long list of things that I don't need to regurgitate every little one of them at this point. But to where it just kind of adds into where you don't get that benefit of the doubt when so much other stuff has happened off the court. Plus, you're 12-50 on the court. That's just, you're not going to get that benefit of doubt, and that's, it's unfortunate, but that's just the bed that he's kind of made.
So that's exactly, you have to, everything has to be over thought, and you have to just think of everything. It's Murphy's Law when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to how your program is presented, what you're sending out there, what the message is, all that stuff is huge. So yeah, the time that goes into that has really got to be thought out for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that clearly has been a sore spot for Kenny Payne and the staff. And no, I still don't believe that he's a plant from UK. I know people are back on.
Yes, I know. Either do I.
On that. It would be, what if he does end up though back on Calipari's staff next year?
I wouldn't. I mean, if he is no longer the coach at Louisville, I would not. Hey, listen, they have a relationship. That's what happens. He's got former coaches. Coach Antigua, who I know. I mean, he came back, and so that's the thing in coaching. You bring back people that you trust and know. I mean, that's just sometimes the way it goes. Some coaches think outside the box and want to bring in new guys, but would it surprise me? No.
Yeah, and Cal seems very much like he knows his dudes and he trusts his guys in his inner circle. And and Orlando Antigua is a phenomenal example of that. After he was, I believe at South Florida was where he was that coach at for a while. Then obviously an assistant over at Illinois as well. He and Jim Goldman did some good ass work at Illinois, if I would assume Kofi Coburn, those dudes. Brad Underwood. As Illinois playing some good basketball as well right now. Let's do this. Actually, before we get to that, just one note kind of on the fan base that you brought up. Just, I feel like you gotta reiterate this again. Just with the fan base being as nuclear as it is right now, that to me once again reinforces for whoever, if they move on from Kenny Payne, who the next coach would. I'm getting
You're doing great now. Yeah,
you're conditioning me for it, but
yes.
But
just like with lawyers, allegedly, those words have to be used.
But if they do move on from Kenny Payne, whoever the next coach would end up being, that desperation from the fan base right now, there's going to be pressure. I know whoever the guy will not be the dude that went 12-50 the last 2 years, and will not be the guy that went 13-19 the year before KP got here, and that he wasn't a part of the fact that Louisville has not made the NCAA tournament since 2019, hasn't won an NCAA tournament game since 2017, and hasn't been to the second weekend since 2015. The new guy will have nothing to do with that. But the fact of the matter is, the fan base has suffered through all that on the court and all the scandals and everything else off the court. They want to win, and they want to win now, to where they're not going to sit through a Tom Crean-like rebuild at Indiana from back in the day 15 years ago, to where they're going to need, I'm not saying be in the Final Four or anything in year one. That would obviously be fantastic, but no one is that level of expectation. But they want to see a competitive product that's in some form of a postseason tournament and threatening, at the very least, threatening to be on the bubble with the NCAA tournament. I think year one will be the expectation for whoever the next coach would be if they move on from Kenny Payne.
Not much to add to that other than the fact that, yes, that the fan base is, as you said, quite nuclear, but that's the job. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter where, look, if you're you're taking over a D3 program or a D2 program, every coach that I know and I've been associated with, it's internal, that stuff. Yeah, the fan base, all that stuff. Yeah, they're all want to win now. You don't think those coaches are just driven? You're in this business, you're driven. Everyone I've been around, is driven. I'm driven to be, great when I'm coaching. I want to be successful. Everything is, I'm very meticulous about details. So whoever comes in, if a change is made, that it's going to be more internal than anything else. I'm not going to worry about external pressure. Trust me.
Yeah, and I think and to bring this up as well, it's not always a bad thing that the fan base is that passionate. In fact, when you're winning, especially, it's a very good thing, and it's one of Louisville's, it's one of U of L's biggest calling cards. It's how passionate and how devoted the fan base is to basketball, because there's very few places like it around the country that are as devoted as Louisville is.
This is I've said it. It's a top 5 job. I'll stand on that. I'll die on that hill. I've been here when this place, in the Yum, and we're going to a final. This place is amazing. This place is an amazing place to be. And as far as the fan base and the city's just passion about basketball is amazing. It's a great job.
Yeah, one last thing on kind of coaching search stuff. Then I got one other fun thing I want to do before we get out of here. First of all, I was disappointed to learn you're not coming back to coach the Louisville TBT team this summer. Which that does, because I loved watching you coaching everyone, and really kind of the run you guys made last summer. It was a lot of fun to watch over in Freedom Hall as well. The team is coming back. Mm-hmm. Reese Gaines is going to be taking over as the head coach. And the reason I find that interesting is because, and you could speak to this a lot better than I can, I vividly remember back, because I've watched the TBT for many summers now, because, it's high-level basketball in July. Of course I'm going to watch it. And especially with, obviously now the Louisville alumni team going to year 2, Kentucky has alumni team coming on, Syracuse for a number of years has had an alumni team. But I remember vividly back in the day watching a broadcast with Jim Boeheim sitting in the stands as a fan cheering him on, and them saying he can't be the coach, even though these are all of his former players at Syracuse, because he's currently employed as a college coach. Reese Gaines, while not an assistant coach, is on the U of L staff and has been on the U of L staff for a number of years. How is it, because a change has not been made to this point, that he can be the TBT coach and also still be on Louisville staff?
Buffalo had the same, the Buffalo team that won the TBT a couple of years ago. Same situation. Nate Oats was at the game. If you're, I can't speak to the letter of the law, but if you're not a assistant coach, if you're like a video coordinator, director of player development, you are eligible to coach in the TBT. Yes, right, it's almost like coaching like either a summer league or something like that, where there's some bylaws, and I can't speak to all that stuff. But I will say this, that Reese will do a great job. I know how passionate he is about it. Luke's involved. It was fantastic. I loved it. I'm excited to watch the team this year. And I've talked about it quite a bit over the last few weeks that I wouldn't be coaching before, before Reese was announced, because, not that this is a shocker, but, I hope to be quite busy this summer coaching somewhere. So for me, that's the part that I didn't want to be, it's a lot. It's a huge commitment. And if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it full bore and invest everything I have. And I knew what it took last year to get that team off the ground, and all the great people, including Wasteology, that was involved, and all the great people that were involved with getting that going, including Luke. But that was just so time consuming. And so it's great, and I think the to keep it going and to see that something that the fruits of our labor is great.
Yeah. And first of all, obviously I best wishes and endeavors on the coaching search and trying to, figure out what that next path is for you on that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I will be supporting no matter what you do.
Thank you, Jack. I love everything else I'm doing, but at my nature, and everybody, enjoyed the TBT, but I've spent, before that, at Monsignor Pace, and spent time at the Heritage School and then at FIU in Southeastern Louisiana, which is I'm wearing the sweatshirt. They have a big game tonight. And then at Louisville. And so, yeah, it's great. But yeah, it's part of my fabric. So I'm excited to possibly get back into the coaching world.
Is that a conference tournament game for Southeast Louisiana night?
Well, it's their senior night.
Oh,
so
nice.
I didn't make it down there. There's still a couple players there that were, that are near and dear to me, and the head coach there, David Kiefer, has just done an amazing job. But yeah, they play tonight, and then the conference tournament starts Sunday. So
nice.
Chance I do go down to watch the conference tournament.
That'd be a lot of fun.
They play at McNeese. So
that's a tough one.
Who they beat, by the way. Southeastern Louisiana is their only loss in conference.
Oh, hell yeah. There we go. All right. So, there's past precedents. You never know.
Yes.
March is great like that. But if it's not going to be you coaching them, Coach, I'm super happy to see that it is Luke Hancock, who I've gotten to know a little bit through my time in radio. Phenomenal guy. And Reese Gaines, who – I'll be quite honest. I've said this before back in the Raiders. I don't know if I've ever said this about the podcast. Reese Gaines is the guy that got me to love college basketball and that team in 2002, 2003. So I've always very much idolized Reese Gaines growing up as a kid. So super excited to see him around the program as well. So they'll do a great job. I know Peyton's already back in. They got Montrez in the fold. So going to be very excited to see what happens with that this summer. Before we get out of here, because I did go through the work to put these together, so I might as well use them.
Let's do it.
It is March, and one of my favorite things to do every year, I've been doing this since I was back in college, doing podcasting and radio shows back up in IU. I am obsessed with blind resumes, Coach. I absolutely love them. I love just throwing two teams on there and just looking at the numbers, throwing everything else out and say, which team do I like more than the other? So I got a few of these here for you. I want to throw.
I love numbers guys. I always want to hire numbers guys, people that like know all those type of things. So that's good. All right, Jack, let's see what we can do here.
All right. So first one, Team A is 18-12, 36th in the net, 28th in KenPom, have a strength of record of 46, a non-conference strength of schedule of 182, is 5-9 quad 1, 4-2 quad 2 with 1 quad 3 or quad 4 loss. Team B is 21-8, 26th in net, 36 in KenPom, 65th in strength of record, 268th non-conference strength of schedule, 2-5 quad 1, 4-1 quad 2, and 2 quad 3, 4 losses.
All right. All right. Let's go with Team 2.
How come?
I think they were comparable. And by the way, you're going to make a great listen, you'd be great on 60 Minutes too with this, just right away with the how come. Look, I didn't have a lot of time to process it, but I was looking at comparable strength of their net and their KenPom.
Team A is 10 spots worse in net and 8 spots better in KenPom.
Right. Yeah. So, and then the quads weren't that, there wasn't a huge discrepancy in the quads. I know team 2 was 2-5 in quad 1.
Yep.
All right.
And team A was 5-9.
Right. So, and then looking at their quad 2. So it's close, but listen, I would need a lot more time to really review it before I make my decision for the committee, but I'm going with team 2.
What if I told you?
Drum roll. Okay, go ahead.
Not yet, but Team A.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I'll give you a little bit more info here. Team A beat number 11 in the net at home and swept number 29, and their quad 3 losses at home against number 93 in net. Team B has wins over number 33 in net at home and number 33 on the road and at home against number 19. Were swept by Team 76 in that. One of those a quad 2, the home one a quad 3, and then has a quad 4 loss at home to 271.
Okay, yeah, that does. Yeah, you didn't give me that information.
See, right? That's part of the game, though. You don't give everything at first.
Well, then I can't make my. All right, then. Yeah, look, that might sway me. That might sway me a little bit. But listen, I'm going to stick with Team B, but again, I'll get a lot of flack probably for my choice here.
I will say this was cruel of me to do with these
two
teams.
Jack. It is.
Well, you don't really know why it's especially cruel because Team A is St. John's
Okay.
And Team B is New Mexico.
Look at you. Look at you. Well, see that I knew it. Look.
That was good, wasn't it?
When you said the loss and the Air Force loss was just brutal, and so when you mentioned that one and so on, but yeah, that Mountain West is a doozy. So
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think with Coach Pitino's win over Creighton was what you mentioned. Like, I think they just need to make a little noise in the Big East tournament. If they don't knock off another one, I think it might be a little dicey for them. But I think New Mexico's got a good shot. I really do.
Those are two teams that are squarely on those last four in, first four outlines right now. So
for sure.
So
well done, by the way. Very well done with what you did there. I love what you did there, Jack. I'm giving you props for that. That was good. And I better say that I think both teams should be in, so I don't get any trouble.
Hey, look, if either Rick or Richard is listening to this, I will feel very accomplished and as one of the top 5 things I've done in sports media. but yes.
Well, I know Richard checks it out. So
hell yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if his how much his dad is listening to podcasts, but I know he's probably on the elliptical right now. So maybe we'll send him this podcast.
Yeah, probably better if Rick doesn't listen to that part there.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right.
All right, number 2. I promise none of them will be as close to home as that one. The rest of them. Number 2, we got Team A is 18.
I should be writing all this down. That's what I should do. I'm doing it all in my head.
I should have sent these to you beforehand. Is what I should have done.
Okay, that's all right.
But that's my fault, and we might have some more of these next week, and I'll make sure to do that if I do that. But I also very much finished these right before we recorded, to be quite honest. But Team A is 18-12.
Okay.
42nd in net, 23rd or 27th rather in KenPom, 69th strength of record, 246 non-conference strength of schedule, 2-6 quad 1, 5-5 quad 2, and has a quad 3 or 4 loss.
What was their overall record? 18-12?
18-12.
Okay.
Team B is 19-11, is 63rd in net, 56th in KenPom, has a strength of record of 36, a non-conference strength of schedule of 222nd, a quad 1 record of 6-7, quad 2 are 3-3, and they also have 1 quad 3 and quad 4 loss. 1 total quad 3, quad 4 loss to clarify.
I'm trying, as you're doing this, I'm trying to think who the teams are because I'm trying to think
of
their records.
that defeats the game.
I understand.
That was the one thing. Like back in the day, like Indiana was always on the bubble when I was in school, and I would do these, and I would always have one where I would include Indiana, and I would have to tell everyone, guys, for the love of God, I know you know all these numbers. Do not say that it's Indiana. That defeats the entire purpose of the game.
Yeah, you're spot on there. Boy, I'll tell you what, both teams are squarely on the bubble there. That's I mean, the resumes aren't great. Team 1?
How come?
You're not going to like this answer. Just gut.
All right. That's no fun.
It's not analytical. It was not processing all that kind of stuff. I think they're. You mentioned where I think Team 2 was a little bit lower with some of their non-conference, and I think their KenPom and their net. So I think Team 1's net and KenPom are a little bit higher. Am I correct?
Yes, they are 27th in KenPom and 42nd in net, and Team B is 63rd in net and 56 in KenPom.
Yeah, I kind of leaned on those numbers more than the other stuff. So trusted our nets and our good old Kenny Palm. So.
Fair. I'll give you this again, just because I like doing this. So Team A's 2 quad 1 wins are at home against number 9 in net and number 27 in net.
Okay.
Their quad 3 loss is at home against 125. Team B, they have the 6 quad 1 wins, which is honestly why why I would go with Team B over Team A, because I value the quad one wins. They're including a home win over number 3, a home win over number 14, and a road win over number 29. So 3 of those quad one wins are top.
So you gotta give me that. I'm switching now to Team 2. I'm off Team 1. I'm with you. I'm jumping off of Team 1 to Team 2.
See, this is part of the game, though. Yes. I want to see how the more info you get, if it changes or not. And their worst loss is a quad 3 loss at home against number 90 in the net. So you're going Team 2 now?
I've switched Team 2.
All right. So Team A,
their quad 1 wins were quite impressive.
Team A is Wake Forest,
who
has been in a slide right now. And
that loss, to
the Georgia Tech is a tough one.
Brutal.
That was phenomenal buzzer beater, though. Really fun to watch as a fan. And then Team B is Seton Hall out of the Big East.
I watched them last night too. Yeah, they're a tough out, man. I think those guys play extremely hard. There's another guy, Shaheen just does an amazing job. I mean, he's not going anywhere, but he's just he gets his guys just to absolutely compete.
Yeah, I think former Louisville player Dre Davis is a perfect fit for what Gene Holloway does. I mean, he just plays his tail off, has been really, really good for them. And I agree with you. I think they've done enough to get in the tournament. Wake Forest, everyone had in after they beat Duke and have just completely fallen flat since then, with road losses at Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, and then the quad 3 loss.
No question. With Seton Hall's wins, the ones that they've had, they should be in.
For sure. I agree with you there. So let's go. I got 2 more of these.
Okay.
Let's do this one first. This is actually, if you want to write them down, this is probably a good one to write them down for. I got 3 teams here.
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it with this basketball brain, because I don't have anything right now, and I don't want to go searching for a pen and paper. So, but do it off the old noggin.
Fair. So this is, instead of who's going to get in, it's who's going to be the last 1 seed. Which one of these teams are you giving a 1 seed?
Okay.
The Team A is 23-6. Is 4th in the net and in KenPom, is 10th. Actually, before I do this, I will say, just as a disclaimer, I'm using strength of record instead of strength of schedule, because it was actually something Iman Brennan wrote on his Substack, saying that the committee really uses strength of record instead of strength of schedule. That's factoring in who you've beaten in addition to more so than who you played.
I'll allow it.
So I have the strength of record. I still put the non-conference strength of schedule in, because I do think that matters as well. But all right, so Team A, again, 23-6, 4th in net and KenPom, has a strength of record of 10, a non-conference strength of record or strength of schedule of 11th, 7-3 quad 1, 6-2 quad 2, and has a quad 3 loss. Team B is 24-6, 10th in the net, 8th in KenPom, strength of record of 6th, non-conference strength of schedule of 24th, 6-4 quad 1, 6-2 quad 2, no quad 3 and 4 losses. Team C is also 24-6, is 5th in the net, 5th in KenPom, strength of record of 4, non-conference strength of schedule of 16th, 8-5 quad 1, 5-1 quad 2, no quad 3, 4 losses.
Yeah, it's definitely between 2 and 3. Give me just review 2 and 3 one more time as quickly as you can.
Team B, 10th in net, 8th in KenPom, strength of record of 6, non-conference strength of schedule of 24th, 6-4 quad 1, 6-2 quad 2. Team C, 5th in net and KenPom, strength of record of 4, non-conference strength of schedule 16th, 8-5 quad 1, 5-1 quad 2.
Team 3, just with their quad 1 wins and
All right, so I'll do the same thing though. Team A, I think, has the worst losses. I really think that's where it gets differentiated for them. They do have a win over number 7 in net on a neutral floor and at number 9, but they have losses at 119 in net and at 160, which
you're not getting the number 1 seed with that. No.
Yeah. Team B has wins over number 6 in net at home and swept Team 7. And their worst loss is at number 49 in net. Team C has wins over number 5 and 9 at home, and their worst losses are at number 85 in net and at 125 in net.
Okay. That's I'll stay with 3, even though it probably should be 2, because when you name these teams, it probably should be 2.
That's fair. I mean, I'm fascinated that you chose three just based off the numbers, because I think this is the one that's viewed as the most outside chance. And this is why I love this exercise when you take the names off and the conference affiliations and all that. But team A is Arizona, which I think you probably figured out which team is which at this point. But team A is Arizona, team B is Tennessee, and team C is North Carolina. Which North Carolina, when looking at it on paper, they have more quad 1 wins than Tennessee and Arizona. They have a better strength of record than Tennessee and Arizona. The net and Ken Palm, they're both higher than Tennessee. And they yes, they do have
the Georgia Tech
losses.
loss, right. Yeah. And but they beat Duke, they beat North Carolina, they beat, so Georgia Tech's an anomaly as far as that goes. Yeah, you know how much I love Tennessee, so yeah, it's neck and neck, but yeah, I mean, I'm confident with Carolina, even though I love Tennessee.
Yeah, I think either way, I'll put it this way: in about mid-January, I was convinced that North Carolina was playing the best basketball in college hoops. They've still been good, but they haven't been as dominant as they were that stretch earlier in ACC play. I think Tennessee, I mean, obviously Houston's been spectacular. UConn just won on the road. Yes, without Tyler Koleg, won at Marquette. Purdue just won the Big Ten outright. Which, by the way, one of the better things I've done was over Thanksgiving when I was back in Louisville. You could have gotten Purdue plus 150 to win the Big Ten, which was never a doubt.
Look at that.
That one was absolutely never a doubt. But to me, I think Tennessee going into Alabama, winning, going into South Carolina and winning, has won the SEC outright now, and they get Kentucky at home for a chance for a season sweep on Saturday. I think they're playing better basketball than anyone else in the country. And that's a very scary thing for me, because as I've said in the past, including on this podcast last week, I struggle to trust Rick Barnes' teams in March, but man, Connect is such a difference maker on the offensive end. They still defend the crap out of you. We saw that against South Carolina on Wednesday night. They have, Zakai Ziegler, Santiago Vesuvie, Josiah Jordan-James, 3 guys that are uber experienced, that defend the crap out of you, and now are playing more in what their roles should be on the offensive end. Just the pieces fit so well for that team, and they are hitting their stride at the right time.
At some point, you change the narrative. Rick Barnes is a tremendous coach. I think that team they're Final Four bound.
They very well could be. And I think if I'm choosing blind resume aside, that's probably the team I would go with for the 4th 1 seed right now. I agree with you there. Arizona's a weird one because they were kind of locked into that one line for a while, but they took a couple good losses, bad losses. The Pac-12 is just not very good this year. No. Going to the Big 12 will help their basketball program a lot next year, I think, because that'll avoid kind of the pitfall that they fall in this year.
But yes.
Yeah,
Arizona
it really
in the Big 12. Yeah.
Which is nuts to think the Big 12 is going to be even better than what it was. So got one more here for you.
Okay.
So back to the bubble. Very different caliber of teams than what we were just talking about. Team A is 21-9, 50th in net, 67th in Ken Palm, strength of record of 35, a non-conference strength of schedule of 174, 2-6 quad 1, 6-3 quad 2, no quad 3, 4 losses. Team B is 23-5, 74th in net, 83rd in Ken Palm, strength of record of 47, 320th non-conference strength of schedule, 1-0 quad 1, 5-3 quad 2, and 2 quad 3 and 4 losses.
Yeah, they're both. We're gonna go with Team 1.
Fair. How come? You knew that question was coming.
I knew it was. That's your go-to. It just sounded better. The numbers just kind of looked like they just kind of fit a little bit better as far as that goes. Team 2's record was good, but some of those where they're ranked in a non-conference, how many of those wins came against the non-conference opponents and so on. So
yeah, Team B 9-2 against quad 4. But before I give you the other end of who they beat and who they lost to, all that stuff, I just want to ask, just as a general question, because this is very clearly, Team A is very clearly a major conference team and Team B is a mid-major team. How do you weigh those against each other? And when trying to figure out who's the better team when one team that's literally played one quad one game all year. And the other one has played a lot of quad one games, but has not exactly had success in them.
It stinks that you can't use an eye test sometimes and watch a team and say, wow, this team is going to make some noise and so on. And you have to be more analytical and use the numbers. It really is. That's the part that's why people want to expand it, which I don't. And we've talked about it, but like, that's probably why, because you have some of those mid majors that are just on the cusp. But
but they're not going to. If they expand it, they're not putting those mid majors in. They're putting more teams like Team A in.
They're going to put more teams like Team A, but it also gives a chance for a Team B to maybe to sneak in if it's one of those years where some of the the higher caliber teams are not as successful, and it's kind of a discrepancy where you have the have and have nots.
Well, which is where we are this year with the Pac-12, especially being really down.
Are you going to be on the committee? So you don't think any of those mid majors? Are you?
No. But I'm saying like the Mountain West is filling in that void a lot this year because the Mountain West could get as many as 6 teams in.
Oh, they should get 6.
Yeah, I agree.
I've watched all those teams play. All 6 are worthy of being in the tournament. And if just because of what San Diego State did last year, they're going to get some extra respect as well.
As they should, because I mean, it's a really, really fun league. But I'm saying that's kind of, they're filling in kind of where the Pac-12 and the ACC normally, especially the ACC would normally get more bids. And
we'll have to discuss this on the next part, because I think the whole scope of everything's going to change in the next few years. I've had some thoughts on how all this is going to go, but we'll get to that another time.
Yeah, we will definitely get to that another time, because that is right up my alley, and I would love to hear all that. But I'll give you this. Team A has their 2 quad 1 wins, are on the road at number 24 and a neutral site game against number 27. And their worst loss is a quad 2 loss at number 130, a game they lost by 22 though. And that obviously not great for the old efficiency numbers. Team B's only quad 1 game was a 1-point win on the road against number 70. They do have a quad 2 win, though, against number 34 at home, so that you can weigh that in if you want to. And then their quad 4 losses are at home against number 220 and at home against number 261. They are 9-2 in quad 4 games, so they've played 11 of them too, which obviously is not great.
Yeah. See, as a coach, like, I see it through a different lens as well, because you're going to have games that you don't want to lose by 20 points. But my point is that you're going to have games where just those things happen, where you're helpless and it just doesn't work. But for the most part, that's just the coach in me, that when I look at this and the resume, I just, think Team 1 sounds like they could at least compete better.
This is one of those where I don't think the eye tests matches the numbers at all, because I'm with you looking at the pure resumes. I would definitely go Team A, but I would not let Virginia be anywhere near the NCAA tournament right now, the way they are playing the last couple of weeks. I mean, they can't break 50.
They're going to win. Listen, Jack, look at me. Okay. They're going to win the ACC tournament. Watch. Okay. That's just what they do. No, I don't think they are, but you just never know. You don't put anything past Tony Bennett.
I mean, the ACC Duke and Carolina are obviously up top, but I mean, other than that, there's not a lot there.
No,
it's not impossible to say they'd make a run and just suddenly flip a switch. But the way they've played the last couple of weeks, I would not let them touch the NCAA tournament with a 10-foot pole. That's where I'm at right now. Team B, by the way, is playing a lot better. They've been phenomenal in conference. Is South Florida, who won the American. Obviously, if they win the AAC tournament, they'll get the auto bid, and this is a moot point anyways.
One of my former players is playing there, and I'm a big fan of that team, and I think they've got a good chance to win the conference tournament, having outright won the regular season.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, though. Obviously, Memphis FAU will be standing in their way there, too.
And UAB. Look.
Yeah, UAB too. Yep.
They're schizophrenic, but you never know. They're so talented.
Have you seen anything wilder than that Memphis UAB game last week?
It was like pure dominance in the first half. And then the second half, and Andy Kennedy loses his mind. But, yeah, it was just – Memphis is talented, man. They're talented.
Yeah, that's a team that they probably need to win the AAC tournament to get in, even more than South Florida does. Because so they're going to be playing desperate. I get the good news for South Florida. Memphis has to go through both FAU likely in a semifinal, and then unless UAB were to upset someone along the way, then South Florida in the final. Whereas South Florida will only have to face one of those two teams.
Right,
SUAB is still someone to deal with as well, but Memphis and FAU are, I just think, are on a different level at this point. To where that certainly being the 1 seed will help them out a lot in that AAC tournament. But I can't get over how bad Virginia's been the last few weeks. Like it's puke worthy. It's sad. Just, they're usually so good year in, year out, but they just don't have it at the moment for whatever reason. But anyways, that's all we got for this week. We'll see what happens here in the next week with Louisville season wrapping up. Regular season finale on Saturday. ACC tournament starts and might end on Tuesday, 4:30. And then obviously we'll see what happens after that as far as the coaching situation goes. So we'll be, hot and ready to go. Whatever something may or may not happen here, we'll see what happens here the next week or so. Going to be eventful for sure. For Coach Lieberman, I'm Jack Grossman, again, Floyd Street's finest. So you can subscribe, like all that stuff on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter. He's at Coach Lieberman. I'm at Jack Grossman 97. I need to do that more. I always forget to do that. But Coach, always appreciate the time, and we will catch up again